KBC Channel 1, Kenya's watching.
Has a story, different lives and dreams, trying to make it through another day. Time to open up and share what we feel in the journey today. So start living, make a better way today. Only you can make that change and start winning. Let your imagination flow. Touch a life and change someone.
Dunia nizamishe ama uniweke niishi peke yangu, kwani ninapomwamini kila binadamu mwishowe ananigeukia. Dunia nizamishe ama uniweke niishi peke yangu, kwani ninapomwamini kila binadamu mwishowe ananigeukia. Nimtazame nani, nimwamini nani? Nani wananigeukia? Vigeugeu, vigeugeu, vigeugeu wananigeukia.
This is the Touch Show, where touching lives has always been and will always be our core business. Road safety is a global problem and impacts negatively on the social, economic, and political areas. Kenya has one of the highest fatality rates in the world, losing up to 3,000 lives every year. Most serious is the trauma suffered by those affected, either directly or indirectly. Today's show will be looking at the causes and ways of curbing road carnage in Kenya. I am your host, Noella Musundi. Welcome.
Touch a life and change someone.
When one decides to make a journey, be it to work or any other destination, we rarely bear in mind the risk involved on the road. We always look forward to reaching our destinations safely. In Kenya, according to World Health Organization, over 3,000 people are killed every year. More than twice as many are permanently disabled by their injuries. These statistics need to be multiplied and seen in the context of deep family tragedy, of unimaginable grief and anguish, and of tremendous health, economic, and disability caused. Most accidents are blamed on indiscipline on the road. This means that they can be avoided if we just tried a little courtesy on the roads. In Kenya, the government has tried to put in a few measures like the Mishuki rules, which involve belting up and all vehicles carrying the capacity of passengers it was designed for to curb this menace. However, the common mwananchi is the one who is best known to flout all these. It's so saddening when young people's dreams and ambitions are shattered prematurely. Therefore, let's be our brother's keepers. Let's speak out anytime we see a driver doing the wrong thing on the road.
Touch a life and change someone.
Ernest Greenwood once said, accidents, and especially street and highway accidents, do not happen, they are caused. Winnie is a victim of such, and she is here today to share her story with us. Tell us, Winnie, how was your accident?
Okay, I was traveling to town, like from the outskirts, on Gong Road. When we reached the depletion near the morgue, the matatu I was traveling in lost control. The driver couldn't quite effect the brakes. So he tried avoiding hitting a bus from the rear. So as he was trying to avoid that, he ended up down the bridge, near the bridge of the seasonal river, near the Nairobi Baptist.
And how serious was it? How were you affected at that particular point?
Essentially, I didn't even know it was that bad because I'd hurt my head. There was a swelling on the left side of my face. And then my neck was hurting a little bit, but not as much. So I actually thought I could make it without medical attention. So I proceeded to town, but a little later I started throwing up, and later on I blacked out and I remained in a coma for almost a month. Yep, when I came to, I'd lost sensation in almost every part of my body. I couldn't tell where my feet were, my hands, but at least I could see. But my mouth, my face was also twisted because I also had what they call facial nerve palsy. Yeah.
After being in a coma for 1 month, afterwards, did you have to stay in hospital for some time? If so, for how long before you're discharged?
I stayed in hospital for almost 2 years. For treatment initially for about 6 months, and then for rehabilitation.
And afterwards, so how did your life change? Because I'm trying to assume, it was like a new status, with all the...
Well, certainly my life changed because, you see, it's over 10 years now, and I could not, of course, continue doing what I used to do normally. And in our society, that kind of social stigma which associates success and inclusion and acceptance to your physical potential and your appearance, of course, sort of isolated me for a while. Yeah.
And what did you do to just, manage, the stigma and everything? What are the measures you took, you as Winnie, to manage the status?
On a personal level, because there's some few changes about the society which you cannot change. But as a person, I sort of learned to adopt a positive attitude to begin with, because I learned my attitude was actually going to determine what kind of life I was going to lead. And then secondly, I also learned to invest in other people, like reach out to other people, give comfort to others who probably are going through their own issues, their own problems, because I realized that one gave me an opportunity also like to bond and to share some warmth that also in a way helped me to move on. Secondly, I also learned like to invest in myself and try to do things that I could, in spite of the fact that I had lost physical potential of the better part of my body. I learned to work with what I had, and that also helped me a little bit to adjust and to get out to where people are, because once you get isolated, it's comparatively difficult to like even live with yourself. You sense that vacuum all the times. And also I also learned like to enjoy my own company. Most of the times I could be alone, but not quite lonely, essentially. So I try to be good company to myself. And in a way, I've tried to change my own disability, or rather to make it a spur of accomplishments by trying to incorporate a number of things that not only benefit me, but benefit others in the long run.
Do you ever get yourself in a position where maybe you regret so much and curse maybe the driver of that particular matatu, or feel like, wanting, to just follow up and find answers? How comes he wasn't too careful on the road when he was driving you guys?
Initially, I actually did. I tried to make an appointment with that driver, because not really to reprimand him or something, but I could have wanted him to know what he had actually done so that he's able to avoid it in future. But you see, the owner of that matatu, even in court, he did not produce the driver. He said he could not remember the driver's identity. So like, that was it. But I could have actually wanted him to know, if probably he'd seen what he had actually done, it could have helped him to be a more sober driver.
Yeah. And after the accident, do you have like any phobia that maybe you will want to share with us?
Oh yeah. For instance, if I'm traveling even in a private vehicle or public transport, and somebody bangs something so hard, that shocks me a bit. And then when I'm traveling, because even to date I still use public transport because I've got to move from one point to another, I try as much as I can to sit next to the driver. Okay, I use the excuse that I have to be there because the chairs are a little more comfortable. But I keep talking to the driver all the way, believe me. So that, and then like, if somebody makes a bad turn right in front or elsewhere, or like overlaps or does something weird, you know, up to now, I still talk to myself or just comment loudly like, have you seen what he's done? You know, like, please don't do it. So it's, I think that phobia has helped me like to try and be a little bit outspoken when it comes to driving, sober driving, that is.
Mm-hmm. What advice can you give out there, whether it's to drivers or passengers in relation to, road accidents and just road safety?
Maybe to passengers first, to be very alert and not to accept anything that is like second best. I think the passengers should, now that they know their rights, they should actually talk to the drivers. They should actually take control of how they are driven. And then, of course, to our drivers, I wish they would be a little more sober when they are driving, because a small mistake can impact somebody's life forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Winnie. We'll pick a few questions before I let you go.
Okay.
At one point in time, did you get to maybe ask yourself why God let that accident happen to you, and whom can you blame? Is it God or the driver?
Actually, I leave God out of the picture. Essentially, because God does not punish us even when we are wrong. We're punished by our own mistakes. So to some extent, probably, I would blame the driver because it was his mistake. But with time now, I've learned to let go. So I don't carry, it's not like I carry him in my heart anymore. Like I don't still carry the burden of him having caused this kind of injury to me.
Many thanks, Winnie, for joining us.
Thank you.
Touch a life and change someone.
Every morning when you leave your house and family and hit the road, you just can't be too sure whether you'll make it back in one piece. Dr. Lumbi, the chairman and CEO of Africa Spinal Injury Center, was involved in an accident while driving one bright morning, an accident that deprived him of his ability to move. However, this did not dampen his spirit, rather it served to reawaken the need to sensitize other road users on road safety rules. Karibu sana to the Touch Show.
Asante sana.
Tell us briefly about that fateful morning.
This was on 20th June 2003. I left my house as usual. I used to work with one of these blue chip companies, long hours, and I knew I'll make it back. But that evening, I remember I left my office, went back down to the basement parking, and got out my car and onto the road. And at one point, the road was okay, it was clear, but somewhere along Thika Road, I was hit by another motorist and I lost control of my car. I rolled so many times, and when I came to Nairobi Hospital, and I was told, you'd broken your neck. Actually, I remember asking when my relatives, my wife and the next of kin, and of course colleagues from the company where I worked, came to see me. I remember the first question I asked, yeah, I know I was involved in an accident, but tell me, where are my legs? Because I couldn't feel them. You know, what I could do, they lift my leg so I see it. And then what happened to my arms, my hands? Same thing, they lift it, and there I was. And being medical, again, I knew now things were bad. If I can't feel it, then it's lost, a spinal injury. That's what happened.
What was the case with you? Did you feel like giving up, thinking maybe that's the end of everything in life?
Naturally, the way we are wired. We are animals. We belong to the animal kingdom. So the reaction is naturally. You feel, wow, the world has come to an end. But when you think deeply about it, you realize, no, I can still do something. You start asking yourself, what do I have? Because that's one question most of us don't really address ourselves to. We go to, like that question that was asked, did you ever one time blame God? Ask God, where were you? I think all of us, if we find ourselves in between a hard place and a rock, that is the first reaction. You want to understand, but it's beyond our understanding. Because, as you said in your opening statement, and the gentleman correctly put it, accidents do not occur. They are caused. And then, if you realize that they are caused, and they happen to people, like my case, what brought me down to realize, actually, God had nothing to do with it. It had to happen, and it had to happen to someone. And that someone happened to be me, unfortunately.
Every time, when you tune into TV or listen to radio, it's accidents left, right, and center. What is wrong, in your own opinion?
The road carnage is unacceptable. It is too high in this country. Killing over 3,000 people per year is crazy. Simply put, for lack of a better word. Over 3,000, not 3,000, it's over 3,000. That is the statistics. And remember, we always talk about those who are killed. We are left out. I'm one of that statistic that is left out, the injured. How many are injured? The correct statistics as per this year's World Bank statistics is over 10,000 who are left with the serious injuries. And when we hear serious injuries, we're talking about spinal injured people, the minor injuries. So when we talk about over 3,000, we are saying every day we are killing about 10 people. And every day we are injuring, leaving people on a wheelchair over about 30. We are talking about 10,000 because we have 365 days in a year. That's the unfortunate statistics. And why are we doing this? There are so many factors that come into play immediately. When you look at, all of us use roads. Now, you cannot look at road safety without looking at the bigger picture. What is it? And when you hear accidents, then quickly you hear 80% of the accidents are caused by human error. Human error is the cause. Most of them are caused by public service vehicles, the so-called matatus. And why are we having all this? Because most of these people, they are in that business and they've been given conditions. They have gone to, we must look at the driving schools they went to and look at how the maneuvering around on the roads. Then we look at the roads. How are they constructed? Like, for example, Thika Road now, they are calling it Thika Superhighway. It's a bomb. It's just things will just go wrong because safety aspects have not been put in place. How people cross from this, and it's so wide. Even now already people are losing lives because that has not been taken care of. Those are things we must look at. Very much we look at very good roads, and then we leave out the human aspect, then we still lose it. But in my opinion, by and large, the real problem is our attitude as a people called Kenya. Our attitude. Look at it, and I want to describe it as very simple and for the sake of time. Look at our behavior on our roads. If you're driving or you're being driven, I don't know where we lose our patience. Kenyans, we are people who have no patience. We are always rushing. We don't have courtesy. So even if we have the best of highways, we have the best of cars. Remember, the other factor that affects, brings about accidents is the mechanical aspect of the vehicles we are driving. But even if you have the best of them, and your attitude is wrong, still there will be accidents. You still continue killing each other. I'm sure all of us have seen this kind of drivers. They come speed past you just to stop 500 meters ahead of you, just on the side of the road. where was this Kenyan going? Why are we in so much hurry? Actually, the main cause is our attitude. We don't have courtesy, which brings me to this point. To mitigate it, we must put in place a system where we can actually teach ourselves as a people and see it that we are killing ourselves. We are killing our daughters. We are killing our mothers. We are killing our brother. Name it. We must bring it to the person.
What are you putting in place to also help other people who are in a situation like yours?
Now, for us, and that's what gave birth to this organization, is Africa Spinal Injury Center. We're trying to mitigate and give advice on how to take care of a person who has been injured. Because one, we forget so often, when I got injured, my wife got injured, my children got injured, my next of kin got injured. Where do we leave them out? You took me to the hospital. I was taken care of in the hospital. Was my wife taken care of like that? Was she counseled on how to take care of me? Was my daughter and son taken through what they will be dealing with in everyday life? Were they told their father will always want now walk and do things from a wheelchair? No, they weren't. So these are the issues that all of us, I mean, when you see me on the street, as a community, as a society, what do you think of me? What do you make of me? Do I really look like a, I mean, I'm not sick, so don't wish me quick recovery. I'm not. I'm there. I'm already arrived. Because I know the potential I have. I know the opportunity I have. I may have more opportunity than any other person here. So give me a chance. And this is what we don't have in our society. You give this person a chance. They are not useless. Most of us tend to think it was due to sin, they deserved it, the wheelchair does not belong to us, it belongs to them. It is wrong. Sometimes I may offer help more than the other person who is walking. Seek it, but don't just sympathize with me. It is not the right thing to do. So on our part, we're trying to be all-inclusive. The victim must understand that and accept their situation and their condition. Their next of kin must be involved immediately so that they also understand this person, their needs, their emotion, their kind of contribution that they can give. And then, of course, the rest of the community, that you embrace us. So that when I come here, you don't have to lift me. I meet it, there are ramps. When Winnie goes to a public service vehicle, the Kenyan Bureau of Standards don't roll out vehicles that cannot accommodate Winnie. Look at the doors. How do we get Winnie into a car? How do we get me in a public transport? Take me to a bank. Give me any. They don't have ramps. Those are the challenges, and which we need the community to be involved so that you accept me. When you are putting up your house, remember you may have a visitor like Lumbi one day.
That's true.
Do you remember that?
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Lumbi. We'll now pick a few questions from the audience.
My name is Maureen Were from Multimedia. My question is, when you had the accident and you realized that you are in such a situation, and your family realized that you are in such a situation, how was their reaction? And since you realized there are some things that you can't do for yourself, and you're being helped to do them, how do you feel about that? Do you feel just okay, or you feel that they are sympathizing too much?
So my family, I had to take them through it myself. Actually, I requested the hospital matron to allow my young family. Remember, young people, when you are in inpatient, they are not allowed in because of the hospital infections. They don't pick them. But this particular case, I was allowed. They came in, and for the first time, I sat on a wheelchair. For me to prepare them to realize this is how I'll be from now on. And of course, I am to do that 3 times for them really to realize, oh, okay. So that they don't hear dad is coming home, being discharged today. They come from school ready to embrace the day. So their reaction actually was, they didn't know how to deal with me. But I took them through, and they accepted it, that we can work like the way we are, and move on with the life the way we are.
So much. Dr. Lumbi, for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Touch a life and change someone. Touch a life and change someone.
Dr. Walter Odhiambo's work majors in repairing faces. This he did diligently. However, with the time and after meeting different horror stories every day, he set out to find the reason why there was an increased clientele. A conference he attended became a major eye-opener. He realized that this was a cause that could be averted if only road users became a bit careful and disciplined. This led to the birth of US Kenya.
After attending this conference, I had this feeling that a similar organization should be formed in Kenya because I was still also very concerned about the escalating rates of road traffic injuries in our country.
He met a group of enthusiastic youths who had a passion for road safety in Kenya, and since they took the mantle last year, they have not looked back.
Several parts of the world, there is now clear evidence that if measures are put into place, these injuries, incidents really come down.
The executive director, Boniface Ngaira, talks about why they are targeting the youth.
We realize that the youths are the most affected when it comes to road crashes. Actually, they form the biggest percentage of the victims of road safety. Yet, all the policies, all the conferences that people do attend, they have a real bias to the youth.
Sheila Atieno works closely with Boniface, and she easily talks about the activities US Kenya is involved in.
We are doing a children program, children teaching children to be safe on the road. In this, we are using, it is at the primary level, the younger age. These children, they're taught on what's the reality on the ground. Who are the victims of road crashes? Are our children safe on the roads? So with the information, with the training they have, they visit other schools.
Touch a life and change someone.
Bright, the CEO of Association for Safe International Road Travel, was involved in an accident at the peak of her life. This prompted her to start this organization in order to sensitize other road users on the importance of safe road travel. Welcome so much, Bright.
Thank you.
Maybe before we go to your organization, just a brief on what happened to you, the accident you got.
I am a survivor of a road crash that happened now will be 14 years in October. I was going to the coast in Mombasa, and I was a passenger in a private vehicle. And because of the crash, I had acquired a spinal cord injury, and since then, I've been using a wheelchair.
At what point did you decide, I need to start an organization that tries to sensitize other people about, safety on the roads?
Well, I didn't quite start the organization. It's a genesis. I was a banker at that point in time when I was involved in a crash. And it took me about 11 months between hospital and rehabilitation and just getting back to normal life. And I went back to the bank and worked for 2 years. And after 2 years, of course, my priorities had changed. Of course, my interests had changed. I resigned from the bank and decided that I needed to do something that impacts on lives, because I'd been through a traumatic experience, just like anyone would have guessed. When your life changes abruptly, there's a lot of psychological, social, economic things that change in your life. And therefore, I needed to find myself usefulness. And I left the bank and went on to go back to school, and I studied something that began to help me to help other people. And I began to counsel people who had been through traumatic experiences, especially through road crashes. And so I was at the National Spinal Injury Hospital supporting patients for about 4 years. Then I began to think, I'm here sitting waiting for somebody to get involved in a crash, and then I can intervene in some way. What can I do to look at prevention? What can I do to facilitate or to educate or to sensitize people that I'm here sitting on a wheelchair because of a careless driver? So I did join the Association for Safe International Road Travel as its first executive director, and I'm there till then.
As an organization, what do you think are the main causes of road accidents, especially in our case, Kenya?
First and foremost, I consider the incidents on our roads as crashes and not accidents. Because when we say accident, it's like nothing can be done. But the incidents that we experience on our roads, and I dare say the greatest violence to humankind happens on our roads, is actually caused. The factors are very predictable. We talk about speeding. We talk about drink driving. We talk about using your mobile phones as you drive. We talk about overloading. We talk about the condition of the roads. We talk about vehicles that are not safe to use on the road. And these are all things that we can work on. They're things that we can prevent. When I was involved in a crash, a driver was trying to overtake at an inappropriate place. And so if they didn't do that, I wouldn't be sitting here telling you my story. So these are things that are predictable. And for a long time, we've looked at the issue of road crashes and the interventions in a very simplistic manner. It's not about the incident that happens on the road. There are various factors, and unless we look at this as a system, then we will not be going anywhere. I call it a system because there are factors that interact. This being life and this being the nature of things, crashes will occur at some point. But there are things that we can do to mitigate. There is the safe user. There is the safe vehicles. There is the safe roads. And of course, that is what happens in the aftermath, which is the post-crash care. If, for example, a driver was speeding on a highway or on a normal road and they had a head-on collision, the first thing to think about is he broke the law. Granted, he did. You're not supposed to drive at certain speeds on certain roads. What if we had a road that had barriers? The chances of a head-on collision are definitely removed. So I do appreciate the people that have the thinking that 85% of road crashes are caused by human error. There's a sense in which that makes sense. But yet, on the other hand, road crashes and the interventions are more complex than that. If we had a safe vehicle, you have a vehicle that has seatbelts. You have a vehicle that has, what do you call this thing that comes up when you have the impact? If you get involved in a head-on, in a crash, at least the injuries would not be as severe as if you didn't have a vehicle that had those facilities. Look at the roads. They're animals, they're people, they're cyclists, they're pedestrians, they're cars, they're lorries sharing the same space. What if we had lanes for walking on, for pedestrians? What if we had designated crossing places? Then we come definitely to the safe road user. Education is lacking, awareness. Somebody sits in an office, they get a driver's license, the next minute they're on the road, especially with border borders. They teach each other. They go through a stretch, 100 meters, back, forth. They try and balance. In the evening, they're a taxi. They're carrying someone. That's a risk. So we need to look at this issue a little more complex, in a more complex way than just looking at it very simplistically. Then we won't have results that are tangible.
Talk to us about the outstanding measures you're taking as an organization to just try, curb road incidents.
We are definitely doing the things that I have mentioned. There is education. We have our training of drivers, in my opinion, is substandard in a general sense. The people we are producing to give this weapon, I say that we don't have permission to carry guns, but we have been given permission to carry other lethal weapons in form of vehicles. That people are getting to the roads inexperienced. You get your driver's license today, and most of your driving lessons were done in a jam, so you aren't going anywhere. You haven't been taught what to do in the dark because your lessons were done during the day. So we are rolling out education programs, and we are targeting the people that will most likely be on the roads, and especially for public service. We have had trainings for matatu drivers, we have had trainings for border drivers. We are advocating and lobbying, and my organization is huge on advocacy, education, and awareness creation, that the training of our drivers is standardized so that we don't have everybody popping up one morning and say, have a driving school, just because who teaches the trainers? which college do they go to become trainers? So there is education. We create awareness. We lobby for where we find gaps, for example, in the law, and lobby for laws to be adopted. We have victim support as well. We do realize that when crashes do happen, they leave behind people who are affected. So we support them psychologically and practically in whichever way that is necessary.
And for those victims who maybe are trying, to seek justice, especially if their incident wasn't firsthand, are you also facilitating them with maybe legal support to just?
What we do is we link them up with people that we know are credible and can help in facilitating those cases, because road crash cases can take up to 10 years. And sometimes there's no compensation at all. So we try and have a database of credible people that can facilitate that aspect of support.
Being a private organization, what are the main challenges you face, in the line of duty?
First of all, the greatest challenge is attitude. Why aren't you doing this? You're not a traffic policeman. You're not the minister for transport. Why are you doing this? So the challenge of attitude, to get to tell Kenyans especially that each and every one of us can do something to avert this violence on our roads, right from whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're a cyclist, or whatever you are, a driver, you can do something. So the attitude thing is one. Of course, finances. To get interventions that are meaningful and impactful costs a lot. So finances, of course, are. And also the coordination, because road safety is not a priority in Kenya. That I can say without blinking an eye. It's not a priority because we've never grasped the impact of road crashes. When we say there are over 3,000 people that die, for every one death or incident, there are tens of people that are affected. What happens when the only breadwinner dies in a road crash? How does that family move on? What happens when both parents die? What happens when somebody is permanently injured and will need medical attention and support for a long time? So those are the issues that become challenges. And the public to understand that this is not about authority, it's about preserving life. It's about you and me. That again poses a challenge, but we're making inroads. Yes.
And when you're creating these awareness, are there, at times when maybe the public is not receptive, to the safety messages you're trying to, to put across to them?
Like you have realized this far, attitude change is the main thing. And attitude change for anything, be it smoking, be it anything, be it drinking, takes a while. So it takes a while for people to realize that actually I have something to contribute. So the challenges would be that people would buy the message, people would own the message, and people will decide that I'll be a safe driver, that I'll be a safe user of the road. Somehow, I don't know for what reason, here in Kenya, we have somebody else to blame. When a crash happens, and I watch a lot of these reactions, for example, in our media, 23 people die, the first question I hear people ask, what is the Ministry of Transport doing? Even when we have been told the driver was seen in a bar, truly, that driver owes that responsibility to the people he carries. I think drivers need to realize that the people that they are carrying deserve to live. So personal responsibility is something we desire to have Kenyans to adopt.
Maybe just briefly, what's your take on Michuki laws? They came, then all of a sudden, we don't see them.
I have reservations when it comes to us esteeming an individual, because I keep saying, and I'll say it again and again and again, how was that a success? I think it was a success because there was leadership. I think it was a success because Kenyans owned the process. Kenyans chose to walk. Kenyans chose not to get into overloaded vehicles. So of course, yes, I do give tribute to that season and that person because they showed leadership. But the bigger part was played by Kenyans. So I really do think that we can renew that spirit. We can renew that commitment. We can choose from today. Our audience can choose today to say, I will not go into a public service vehicle without a seatbelt. I will not speed. I will not use my phone on the road. And you'll begin to see a difference. Yes, there needs to be leadership in policy. Yes, there needs to be leadership at that level. But each one of us can do something to save lives.
Thank you so much, Bright. Let's now pick a few questions from the audience.
My name is Rosemary Kwamboka from Inorero University. My question to you is, at that particular point that you are in a hospital bed, there must be something that went through your mind, knowing that you'll be using a wheelchair. What was your first impression? And knowing that the environment that you're going to live in is going to change totally.
Thank you, Rosemary. I must tell you, at that point, I was not worrying about the environment. I had no idea, had never had a disability before, and I had no idea about the level of social stigma, the level of inaccessibility. We take a lot for granted. So I was not worrying about that at that point. But I must tell you that I went through a normal process of grief, a normal process of how one deals with loss. First, I was in denial. Every morning I woke up knowing, I wake up, wear my heels and go home. So I woke up, I just knew that tomorrow would be the day, until reality sunk. And when reality sunk, of course I was angry, I was frustrated. But I had to process those emotions and get to the place of acceptance and to realize that this is my new normal, this is my new self, and I have to move forward, I have to make meaning. It wasn't so much about what I lost, because I can't do anything about that, but it's about what I still have. And how can I maximize what I have?
Many thanks for sharing your story. Do remember, accidents hurt, safety doesn't. Whether you are a driver or passenger, don't wait to learn road safety by accident. My guests today, Winnie, Dr. Lumbi, Bright, many thanks for being with us. My studio audience in Inorero University, you made it happen. And also you at home, many thanks for always keeping it charged. And of course, our DJ, Rafkat. I was your host, Noella Musundi. Until next time, same place, same time, many more. Always keep it charged.
Bang, bang with your body, yo. We gonna rough it up before we take it slow. Girl, let me rock you like a rodeo. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Bang, bang with your body, yo. We gonna rough it up before we take it slow. Girl, let me rock you like a rodeo. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Are you serious? Sip some.
Bad girl now, I forget you what I'm saying.
Look, check on the case.
Tell a boy, where we want. We not ever tell a boy, where we want. Straight to the point, bad girl want some. When I see you, I'm a wanna hold back.
KBC Channel 1, Kenya's watching.